Hello everyone, this is Tripper, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons yet again. It has been a little while since I've made another video like this, and I thought I might as well, given the fact that I've been playing a lot of D&D recently and doing a lot of stuff related to it. And you could probably have told, based on the title of the video, that it is about improvisation and planning, and what you as a DM should think about when you are planning out a game. And I don't mean like actually building stuff for the game. When you are planning to run a game, when you are planning, knowing that you are going to be running a game, what do you do? And I'm going to start off with a cop-out and say what many other people have said on the internet, that it depends. It depends on your style, on what you're confident with doing, and at the end of the day, what you feel that you are able to put forward that is going to entertain the players. If you feel like creating a massive, sprawling world that you've designed every inch of will be the most satisfying for your players and yourself, do it. I can't tell you otherwise. The opposite is also true, especially for myself. If you want to improv every element of the world, go for it. If that's something you want to try or do, and you think your players will like it, do it. But what I'm going to tell you right here, right now, is how to kind of know which one you should be trying, depending on how you run games currently or play in games currently. So, you might be wondering why there is a map of Corvair on my screen right now in Roll20. Corvair is the continent of the Eberron campaign setting for Dungeons & Dragons. That is, to my knowledge, what it is. And I have used this map twice before in two past games. One was slightly more planned than the other. However, both games were very, very improvised on my part. And what that means is that everything you can see here, you can't see all of my notes, or my cursor for that matter, but all of these notes here, I made on the fly as I was doing things. As I was playing the game, as I was running the game, before or within like 10 or 15 minutes before or after the game, I was writing things down that I had said in prior games, because I am very confident in my ability to improvise. I find it very fun for myself. I've done a lot of practice. I find that as someone who has done theater and acting in the past, it's very easy for me to, off the cuff, just drop into an NPC's shoes and get rolling. But not everyone's like that, right? It's very difficult for, I'd say, the majority of people to be running a game and then at the same time writing down everything that they're telling the players to remember later about their world, because they don't have it written down already. I didn't have it written down already. I made an artifact for this world, in fact, and a player got it, and I was building it as the player was just traversing the land, because, I mean, he didn't know what he did. He couldn't cast Identify on it. It was called the Stone of Xylix. And the beautiful thing about improvisation, in my opinion, I will get to planning in a little bit, but I have a special place in my heart for improvisation, so I'll go to that first. The beautiful thing about it is that you have full creative control at any given time to change anything. And some of you might be saying, oh, well, if I plan things, I can just retro things, or I can just change this here. But I find that if you take a planning approach, even if you take it from a bottom-up perspective, where you start with the town with a couple of people, and then you get bigger and bigger and just kind of make the world at a very vague sense, and you just have a town, that still makes a lot of things set in stone, right? Obviously, you can add things on. You can create new people to deal with that. You can add new hooks and just evolve the world. But I love improv so much because I, in that moment, control every facet of the story. But it's not perfect. Improvisation is never perfect. That's the thing. I have made many, many mistakes improvising on the spot. And I still do. That's something that you can't get out of if you're in the business of making stories up in your brain, just randomly at a moment's notice. And that is probably the biggest detractor for most people for improvisation, is that if you're not completely confident in your ability to make stories up on the spot, then you're going to have more mistakes than otherwise. And that's just a matter of course. But I would say to that and those people who think that, experiment, play around. If you are not interested in improvising, if you feel like you would enjoy preparation more, you would enjoy things like creating things, I will say to you, you can still improvise and plan. In fact, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but the majority of dungeon masters, I think in my mind, myself included, have some mix of improvisation and planning. Their quests, their world will probably be relatively planned. You don't want people to walk into a town and then they ask someone, who's the mayor? And you're like, Bob Bobbinson. You don't want to. You want to have like very basic, important things like that. You don't have to have the mayor of every single town. I don't. But relevant information is something that myself, as an improvisational focused DM, is very valuable to. I like having structure to places that my PCs go. I like knowing what they want to know. And just ask your players after every game session, where are you guys going to go next? What are you guys interested in figuring out? Don't ever be afraid to pick your players' brains for what their characters are thinking of. That's not a bad thing at all. It gives you an idea of what you should both prep for and kind of start thinking about. Because if you're a GM who doesn't do a whole lot of prep, just thinking about something, letting it wriggle around in your brain is a great way to get ideas hatching and just figuring out new ways of doing things that'll lead your players and their characters to entirely new lengths and heights of adventure. So, in terms of improv, you don't have to completely improvise to have it be improv. You should plan some things. I plan some things. This game, I planned nothing at all. However, in the next game I'm going to show you, I have planned a decent bit, but a lot of things I will improvise. To anyone playing in my in-person D&D game, spoilers ahead. And I'm also going to be using this game as an example of planned games for DMs, but for now I'm going to use it as an example of myself as an improvisational DM doing certain things planned. So some things that I would say an improvisational focused DM should really focus on planning is, first and foremost, ambience. If you are a DM who values ambience, who values music, media like pictures, music, any kind of sound effects, get that stuff in there. That is a headache to try to pull up in the moment. I've done that before. I've had to do that before because in my head I really like having music. I like having pictures. But you end up in a scenario where, oh no, I just found this much better picture 10 minutes after you showed the players what this character looks like. So you get yourself into that scenario. I would plan that stuff ahead. If you know a great character that's coming up, but you think, but I want to improv his appearance, I wouldn't do that. I would honestly, if you want to use pictures, find a picture, stat. Just get it, do it, bam, and then you have an image in your head, you know it, period. Map. This is something I would not recommend improvising unless you are very, very confident in either your ability to remember spatial and geographical locations or to draw out a map as it becomes necessary. The latter is a very good way of running a game. I don't have experience with it, but I know a couple DMs who do that, and it works. It works out just fine. The problem in my mind is the people of this world have maps, right? I want to make my worlds feel realistic, and for that, I want to have a map to show my players, hey, this is the world. This is your world. What is important to you here? Where do you come from? Things like that are very important to me. Other people, other DMs have different priorities, and that's fine. That's fine. Everyone runs their own kind of game. This is just the kind of game I'm run. I like to plan things like locations, location names. Names are huge for me. I'm not very good at improving names on the spot, and I love good names. Like, I pride myself on having pretty good names. I like to think all of the names on this map are pretty decent, except maybe Dartmouth, just because, like, it's the name of a college, but go figure. But yeah, names, something that I would certainly plan, and things of that nature. I think that's all I really have to say about improvisation. Moving on to planning, the exact same thing as improvisation. If you were to try to plan absolutely everything in your game, you would have a very interesting time flipping through sheafs of paper for about 5 hours, the length of your game. Or if you have it in a digital document, if you have it easily accessible, you are going to be playing a game using 2 or 3 sheets of paper. This is the majority case. This is not every case. Some DMs will plan 95% of what they think, or like 80%. There's the 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. 80%, oh no, it's 20% of the work makes up 80% of the results. So they plan like 50, 60%. They hit the use cases, they hit that 20%, they hit the majority stuff that the players care about, but at the end of it all, they're left with all this material. Like, what do I do with this? You can recycle material, something I've done in the past, something I'd recommend you do if you end up with spare material. However, why go to those lengths, right? And in my mind, there are these extremes on the spectrum. Everything improvised, everything planned. They both have a lot of downsides that unless you are married to one severe extreme, I just wouldn't recommend. So rather than planning everything, plan only what you know you will need to run the game as you have it in your head, okay? Do not marry yourself to the chain of events in your head because the players will surprise you. It's a rule of being a DM. The players will surprise you. But that is where improvisation and a little bit of peripheral planning will come into play. As long as you know who the guard captain of the City Watch is, who is having an affair with the magistrate in town, just be able to come up with that stuff. And if you don't think you can, write it down. It's just a couple lines, really. Maybe like 2 or 3 lines that you can just have in case your PCs are like, this job is getting really hard. We just want to go to a notice board, DM. Can we do that? Is there one in town? Can we just go find a bounty or something? And you're like, well, yeah, sure. Yeah, There's a, notice board. You go. Someone has reported. You pick up the note card you have. Note cards are great, by the way. I don't have any with me, sadly, but note cards are fantastic. 3x5. Highly recommend them. Plenty of DMs use them. I think Sly Flourish, who has written The Lazy DM, it's a nice book. I highly recommend it. Uses them extensively. But have a note card. Have a couple of just sample things written down that you can throw at the PCs if they get a little antsy, anxious, what have you. If they want to just kill things and they're doing a murder mystery, they want to find a bounty. A bounty pops up. Oh, hey, how about that? So having these things that you just have on hand planned is so much more valuable than having every single person in a town of 50 people designed. Do not do that. Please. That will be, take it from me, that will be a massive expenditure of time and effort that at the end might be worth it to you. If you find planning fun, this is a preface to everything I've said thus far, if you find planning fun, ignore what I'm about to say. If you find planning fun, you should be free to do as much as you want because, have fun, right? But I would say if you plan every NPC that you see your characters ever possibly running across or talking to, you're going to spend so much time, it's going to be a waste of effort. What I would recommend, and this is simply my opinion, this is what I do, and I'm going to show you my OneNote page right now. This is my OneNote document for my game. It's called The Southlands: The Awakening. And I have all of my factions with a basic overview. These are world-level factions. I don't have, like, someone's stupid little back corner, like, gambling ring in here. I have world factions in here that play a part in the world story. I have the Pantheon, and I have some regions. I don't have every region. I have only the regions that my players have been to, are in, or are planning to go to. And even then, I don't have them completely designed. The only one I have really well designed is the main town that they're in, and that they're kind of using as a home base. I have it, this is the planning I've done for it. I've done this over the course of maybe a few hours over a couple weeks, but I did this months ago. I did this before I even started the campaign, most of this. However, about a quarter of it I have added. So I would say have a basic overview of the stars here. I mean, quests have a basic overview of the type of quests that might be there, of the type of important people that might be there, the type of things that might be happening, the type of defenses. This is more important than you'll think, because if your NPCs have a tendency to steal, you have to think, are there enough guards to actually catch and kill these people, or catch and imprison these people? It's important to know. So this is the sort of thing I would recommend having as much as possible planned in advance. However, and this is a regret of mine, I actually ended up planning a little bit too much in my mind, because I did a bunch of writing for many of the other locations in sort of the local area that my players are in, which is here. Anyone is interested? These are all their players, and that's some banter. And I have a lot of locations here, right? And you might be thinking, okay, well, it would make sense to have a lot of these locations, like, well planned out, right? Like, they could go there. I would not say so. I would not recommend that. I would simply say, make sure that you have the places that your characters have expressed interest in singled out. My characters have never expressed interest in this wood, these ruins, this road, this bridge, this tower, a little bit of interest in this tower. Nothing in these fields, nothing in the hamlet. And I did prep for these before I started the game, and I kind of regret that, because that disallowed me, again, as I said in the beginning, that disallowed me from coming up with something that directly correlates with what they're doing now. But again, that's personal preference. It's personal preference to have something in the moment prepared, or in the moment out of my head that I like, that I can get behind and really support. So this is kind of my take on the preparation versus improvisation argument. I don't think it should be an argument. I think they're both incredibly valid methods of dungeon mastering, and in any other game system as well, I think they're entirely relevant. So take that as you will. I have done prep, I have done improv, I've done it all in the past. I would say stay away from extremes. Stay away from areas of preparation or improvisation that you are not confident in yourself in, because that will show. That will show to the players. Unless you are willing to tell them, hey guys, I'm going to spend this session improvising. I hope you're okay with that. I'm not too confident in my abilities. You don't have to say that, but tell them, just bear with me this session. And play with it. Experiment, right? If you have decent players you want to play with, they'll understand. And also, as an aside, before a game even begins, you should have an idea of what you want the game to be. You should tell the players, this is what the game's going to be like. This is what can and can't happen, etc. That is stuff you have to prep. You must prep a scenario, a theme, and anything that you're going to tell your players in advance. These are things that I have improvised in the past, but I wouldn't recommend everyone improvise, because they are things that will determine the world and the game. And it can end really badly if your players go into the game, do the first quest, the second quest, all their expectations are out the window, and it's your game through and through, and that's not good. You don't want that. You want your players to be telling the story, and you just want to be the narrator. But that is a whole nother video. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope that this gave some insight into, at the very least, the way that I dungeon master games. To summarize, basically, I will improv whenever possible, but I will prep anything that I don't feel like I'll be able to improv very confidently. So take that as you will. Thank you very much, as always. Have a grand day. I'll see you kind people next time.